Before Adam West became known worldwide as Batman, he traveled to Europe to work on a spaghetti western. Just before leaving, he filmed a series of commercials for Nestle's Quick, where he played a playful spoof of James Bond called Captain Quick. In 1967, West put on his Batman costume one final time for a secret filming project in London. Whatever he recorded there vanished from public view for over 50 years. Not even the most devoted Batman fans or collectors knew it existed. The footage sat hidden in British archives, forgotten by nearly everyone. Then, in 2018, it was rediscovered during a search for lost television history. What West said in that missing scene shocked viewers and proved that even the most famous superheroes could have hidden chapters in their stories. Back in 1964, Ed Graham Productions bought the rights to create a Batman TV series. The original plan was to make a straightforward Saturday morning adventure show, much like the adventures of Superman from the 1950s. The producers considered casting NFL linebacker Mike Henry, who would later become known for playing Tarzan, as the first live-action Batman. By 1965, CBS was close to making it happen, but weeks of negotiations stalled and the network ultimately passed on the idea. If that version had been made, Batman might have been a simple children's program, lacking the flair that made him a pop culture phenomenon. Henry soon left to play Tarzan, and the project collapsed right before filming could begin. That failed attempt cleared the way for the Batman that the world eventually came to know. In the same year, something unexpected happened at Hugh Hefner's Playboy Mansion in Chicago. Hefner hosted a screening of all 15 episodes of the old 1943 Batman movie serial. It seemed like a nostalgic get-together, but the atmosphere was electric. Guests dressed in costumes, booed the villain, and cheered during fight scenes. The event caught media attention, and suddenly, the old Batman was fashionable again. This renewed interest inspired Columbia Pictures to re-edit the 1943 serial into a 4.5-hour feature called An Evening with Batman and Robin. It premiered at the Playboy Theater and then spread to art house cinemas and college towns. Midnight showings sold out, with lines wrapping around the block, fans wearing costumes, and concession sales hitting records. The unexpected success caught the attention of ABC, proving that Batman could draw massive audiences. Around this time, a young ABC executive named Yale Udolph began campaigning for a Batman television series. A lifelong fan, Udolph was energized by the buzz surrounding the Chicago screenings. He repeatedly urged his bosses, even exclaiming in meetings, "We ought to do Batman." At first, they brushed him off, but Udolph refused to quit. He wrote a detailed proposal blending the stylish espionage of James Bond with the fun of the man from UNCLE. His passion was contagious, and eventually, ABC executives took the idea seriously. Some even secretly read Batman comics during flights, hiding them inside business magazines. When William Dozier was brought on as producer in 1966, he admitted he had never read a comic book. Once he did, he was struck by how bizarre the stories were. Gadgets like shark-repellent bat spray and plots about Batman surfing against the Joker. He decided the best approach was to make the show a colorful, exaggerated parody rather than a serious crime drama. This campy style fit right into the mid-1960s, when pop art and playful satire were everywhere. The result was a show filled with flashy costumes, over-the-top villains, and comic book sound effects like "pow" and "bam" exploding across the screen. Not everyone liked Dozier's vision. Acclaimed spy novelist Eric Ambler had originally been hired to write a Batman movie to launch the series. But when he learned the show would be a comedy, he walked away, unwilling to attach his name to satire. Casting was also a pivotal moment. 2 test reels were filmed, one with Adam West and Burt Ward, and another with Lyle Waggoner and Peter DeYell. Waggoner was the safer, more established choice, but West and Ward captured the quirky, energetic style Dozier wanted. The producers took a risk, and it paid off. Waggoner would go on to success in The Carol Burnett Show and Wonder Woman, but it was Adam West and Burt Ward who made Batman and Robin unforgettable. Adam West's journey to becoming Batman was far from predictable. The producers first noticed him through a Nestle Quick commercial, where he delivered absurd lines with a completely straight face. That deadpan humor convinced producer William Dozier that West had the exact tone the show needed. serious enough to be convincing, yet funny enough to make the campy style work. On September 21, 1965, West signed his contract, beating out more famous names because he could make Batman both heroic and humorous at the same time. That rare combination became the signature of his performance. Burt Ward was cast as Robin in 1966 at just 20 years old. On screen though, he looked like a high school kid, convincing audiences he was closer to 15 or 16. Ward threw himself into the part, even performing his own stunts, which led to multiple hospital visits, 4 in his first 5 days of filming alone. His youthful energy and athleticism brought Robin to life, making the character believable as Batman's enthusiastic young partner. Supporting the duo were veteran actors who gave the show a grounding sense of seriousness. Alan Napier, who played Alfred, was born in 1903 and was related to former British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain. Trained at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London, Napier had been acting since the 1920s and was 63 when he joined Batman in 1966. Neil Hamilton, who portrayed Commissioner Gordon, had a long career in silent films and on stage. Their professional gravitas balanced out the over-the-top villains and colorful action, helping the show appeal to both kids and adults. However, Batman carried with it a long-standing controversy that began in 1954. Psychiatrist Frederick Wortham published Seduction of the Innocent, a book that shocked the public by claiming that Batman comics contained hidden homosexual themes. He argued that Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson's living arrangement, with no women in the household, was suggestive, and he claimed that boys had told him they wished they could live with Batman. Wortham even described the comic as a wish dream of 2 homosexuals living together. His theory fit into the broader paranoia of the 1950s during the Lavender Scare, when fears about homosexuality were widespread in American politics and culture. These accusations didn't fade away. By the time the TV series launched in the 1960s, the rumors still lingered, and both the cast and producers were careful about anything that could revive the controversy. They closely watched dialogue, costumes, and even plot details to avoid giving critics ammunition. In 1967, the issue resurfaced when TV Radio Album magazine published an article titled The Whisper Campaign Against Batman and Robin. The article, only 2 pages long, denied the rumors on the surface but slyly compared West and Ward to Liberace, the flamboyant pianist who had sued newspapers in the 1950s for implying he was gay. The magazine quoted a famous line about Liberace, crying all the way to the bank, suggesting that Batman's stars were likewise enjoying their fame while ignoring gossip. The reference was deliberate. In an era when homosexuality could not be discussed openly in mainstream media, coded language allowed writers to imply things without making direct accusations. For ABC, however, the gossip was a real threat. Executives worried it might drive away sponsors and the family audience. Their solution was to emphasize Batman's interest in women. In one notable scene, Batman explains to Robin that his attention toward attractive female villains was simply due to the first oncoming thrusts of manhood. It was an intentional move to silence critics and make the hero's heterosexuality clear. The line about Batman's first oncoming thrusts of manhood might have felt awkward and heavy-handed, but it was no accident. From that point onward, the scripts regularly worked in scenes where Batman showed interest in women, even when it didn't quite match the playful, campy tone of the series. This was done deliberately to assure audiences and advertisers that the Caped Crusader was clearly heterosexual. The image control didn't end with the show's dialogue. Behind the scenes, the studio launched a major publicity push to present Adam West and Burt Ward as traditionally masculine figures. Magazine spreads and press kits featured them practicing karate, discussing their marriages, showing off their children, and even posing during workouts or engaging in rugged hobbies. Everything was carefully framed to prove their manliness. It was an almost desperate effort, but it reflected how a single rumor in the 1960s could threaten an actor's career, a network's reputation, and the future of an entire TV series. While the rumors were being managed, the show started facing an entirely different challenge. Its popularity was slipping fast. When Batman debuted in January 1966, it was an overnight phenomenon. At its peak that February, it was being watched in 14 million homes, capturing an incredible 42% of the TV audience. But by March, Wednesday night episodes had dropped enough to barely hold onto a spot in the weekly top 20. Internal ABC memos admitted the novelty was wearing off, and the once exciting formula was already becoming repetitive. The phrase, Batman fatigue, began circulating. By the summer of 1966, the drop had turned into a free fall. An Associated Press article in August reported that Batman had fallen completely out of the top-rated shows list. Merchandise sales were still strong, but viewers had moved on. Networks expected a seasonal dip, but this collapse was far sharper than normal. The fad that had shaped clothing styles, slang, and pop culture just months earlier was fading quickly. The 1966 Batman movie was supposed to reignite the craze. The studio heavily promoted it, banking on a blockbuster hit, but it only earned $1.7 million at the box office. In 20 key cities, it performed 122% better than the average film. But the studio had been expecting numbers closer to 200% for a genuine smash. While toy and merchandise sales stayed strong, the movie didn't make a profit, stunning both 20th Century Fox and ABC. When Season 2 began in September 1966, the ratings painted a bleak picture. Batman now averaged 34th place across all TV shows, far from its earlier top 5 status. Some episodes even slipped into the 40s in the rankings. Bringing in new villains like the Archer and Catwoman couldn't reverse the trend. The magic had faded, and many cast members began openly worrying that cancellation was on the horizon. One of the most surprising pieces of so-called banned Batman history from this era didn't come from the US at all. It came from London. In May 1967, Adam West suited up as Batman to film a road safety message for British children. For more than 50 years, the footage was lost, unseen even by die-hard American fans. That changed in 2018, when the British archive group Kaleidoscope discovered it during their search for the UK's top 100 missing television clips. Before then, it had never been screened outside Britain, and most people didn't even know it existed. When it resurfaced, it felt like finding a hidden gem from both superhero and British cultural history. In the short film, Batman stands on a quiet street teaching kids the curb drill, the British method for crossing safely. Staying completely in character, he warns children about the dangers of traffic and demonstrates the steps. Stop at the curb, look right, look left, look right again, and only cross when safe. The sight of an American superhero giving British road safety tips was unlike anything else from the time. The first public screening took place on April 14, 2018, at Birmingham City University, launching Kaleidoscope's campaign to recover other lost TV treasures, including Doctor Who and the Avengers. Fans were stunned to learn Batman had once starred in such a forgotten PSA. It was a reminder of how much TV history still hides in archives and private collections, waiting to be found. Another curious piece of Batman history involves singer Leslie Gore, who appeared as Catwoman's sidekick Pussycat in the two-part episode Scat. Dawn Catwoman, which aired on January 25, 1967. In the storyline, she performed 2 songs, California Nights and Maybe Now. While California Nights remained intact in reruns, Maybe Now mysteriously vanished from American broadcasts. Gore had co-written the song with her brother Michael, and it was released as the B-side to her single Treat Me Like a Lady. Some international broadcasts and original prints kept the number, but American cable reruns and MeTV airings cut it entirely, leaving many viewers unaware it even existed. Its disappearance became one of the show's strangest unsolved mysteries. There was also a controversy involving Commissioner Gordon. In one version of the show, Batman brings Commissioner Gordon into the Batcave, where Alfred uses bat sleep spray to knock him unconscious so he won't remember seeing Batman and Robin's secret identities. Some syndicated versions cut this scene entirely, removing the gassing, because producers worried about showing a police commissioner being drugged, even in a light-hearted context. Other edits reduced Gordon's role in the Batcave altogether. These changes showed how even the most playful, campy television series had to be careful about its content, especially when millions of children were watching. Not all of the strange stories from the Batman era happened on screen. In the late 1960s, Adam West was actually banned from Aspen, Colorado, for 15 years after a wild party got out of hand. He later admitted that there had been liquor, women, and police involved. At the time, rumors painted him as a Hollywood troublemaker. Some said the ban was due to noise complaints and property damage, though he was never charged with any crime. Exactly 15 years later, West received an official letter from Aspen saying he could return. The whole incident helped create his reputation as someone who was more than just the hero he played on TV. Off-camera, both West and Burt Ward became known for their energetic nightlife. Ward later revealed in his autobiography that they often met enthusiastic fans while still wearing their costumes. Some of his stories shocked readers and embarrassed the show's producers. He even claimed that on one occasion, he escaped a jealous husband by jumping out of a motel window into the mud. West, however, argued that Ward exaggerated many of these tales. Regardless of who was telling the truth, the constant gossip caused tension between them and worried network executives, who feared damage to the show's wholesome, family-friendly image. Their co-stars also added to Batman's behind-the-scenes lore. Cesar Romero, who played the Joker, famously refused to shave his mustache for the role. Instead, the makeup team covered it with heavy white paint for all 120 episodes and the 1966 movie. If you look closely in certain shots, you can still see the outline beneath the makeup. What started as a personal preference became one of the most memorable quirks in the entire Batman franchise. Behind the cameras, the cast's real lives often matched the chaos of Gotham City. West and Ward admitted that their sudden fame led to constant parties filled with late nights, alcohol, and non-stop attention from fans. Some of these gatherings lasted until sunrise, leaving the actors exhausted during filming. Makeup crews often had to work extra hard to keep them looking fresh for the cameras. Accounts from people who were there confirm that sometimes the off-screen antics were just as outrageous as the colorful adventures playing out on television. The Batman TV series of the 1960s is remembered not just for its colorful action and over-the-top humor, but also for the many fascinating behind-the-scenes stories that fans rarely heard about at the time. In 1966, celebrated science fiction writer Harlan Ellison was invited to pitch an episode for the show. He chose to introduce Two-Face, one of Batman's most famous comic book villains who had never appeared in the series. Ellison titled his story, The Two-Way Crimes of Two-Face. It kept the show's playful tone but carried a slightly darker edge that made it stand out. At one point, actor Clint Eastwood was even considered for the role, which would have been a huge boost for the series. Unfortunately, Ellison's pitch arrived on the very day that a key ABC executive was leaving the network. Because of the timing and behind-the-scenes politics, the script was rejected and remained buried in Ellison's files for nearly 50 years. Fans didn't get to see his vision until 2014, when DC Comics adapted it into a comic book called Batman 66, The Lost Episode, offering a glimpse of what might have been. The show also invested in an impressive new gadget for both the TV series and its 1966 feature film, the Batboat. Custom-built by Glastron, the boat was packed with eye-catching features meant to thrill viewers. It first appeared in the movie, but filming on water proved far more expensive than expected. Each scene needed extra crew, special equipment, and strict safety measures, adding thousands of dollars to the budget. Because of these costs, the Batboat was used only a few times before being put into storage. It soon became something of a legend among fans, a symbol of how tight budgets sometimes forced the producers to abandon exciting ideas. By 1968, Batman's ratings had fallen so far that ABC abruptly cancelled the series. Just as it seemed the end was certain, NBC expressed interest in picking it up for a fourth season. That hope ended almost instantly when a shocking mistake came to light. The sets had already been destroyed. The Batcave, Wayne Manor, and Commissioner Gordon's office had all been bulldozed to save storage costs. Rebuilding them would have cost several $100,000, over $2 million in today's money. Faced with this expense, NBC dropped the idea. For years, many fans believed NBC had been seriously planning a fourth season, but records later showed that it was never realistic. Ratings were already at their lowest. The budget was running at a loss, and even the third season had been cut to just 17 episodes. Expensive elements like the Batboat had already been dropped or rarely used. Once the sets were gone, The cost to rebuild them was far beyond what television budgets could handle in 1968. While Batman was still a hit, producers had looked at expanding the franchise with spin-off shows. One idea was a standalone Batgirl series, and a pilot was actually filmed. Instead of launching her own show, she was added as a regular to the main series. Other ideas included a Robin spin-off and even a show featuring other DC superheroes, similar to an early version of the Justice League. Some of these concepts reached the stage of having concept art and early network talks, but the collapse of Batman in its third season ended all of them. With the main sets destroyed, every planned spin-off was cancelled, some just days before casting was about to start. Internal network memos from 1967 and 1968 confirmed that once Batman ended, so did any chance of building a shared TV superhero universe at that time.